the sex talk. It's hard enough as it is, but how are heterosexual parents supposed to navigate this conversation with their LGBTQ child? Ugh. This is a whole other ballgame. Or is it? Hello, my name is Christina Campos. I'm founder of The Impactful Parent, and every week I give you parenting videos that can help you in your parenting journey. If you have a particular topic or parenting question about your school-age child that you would like for me to address, please submit it at theimpactfulparent@gmail.com or by messaging me on social media. And all submissions are kept anonymous. But today's episode is about having the sex talk with an LGBTQ plus child. With more and more kids coming out, parents want to know how to talk to teens about sex and dating and what rules they need to implement in their households. Parents feel uncomfortable or are unsure of themselves and what to say. So today, I will give you the answers that you need to start this conversation. So let's get started. This conversation you can't avoid. I don't care if you're embarrassed or you're uncomfortable. If you don't talk to your children about sex and relationships, someone else will. When kids have like a blank space looking for knowledge or answers, they will fill that blank space with their own narrative, usually created by their friends, the media, and other just random things in their lives. You don't want your child's sex education to come entirely from someone who is very young, inexperienced, and still experimenting. Also, research shows that LGBTQ youth have a limited amount of trusted adults that they feel comfortable talking about sex with. So, this leads kids to go find answers online. No. Parents should play a role in helping their children learn how to navigate healthy sexual relationships. Period. If you choose to avoid this important conversation, you can potentially set up your child for a bad experience. And no, that's not what you want. You're an impactful parent, right? And you're going to have this conversation confidently because today you're going to learn what to say. How to talk to an LGBTQ plus child about sex. Step 1. You have to acknowledge your own feelings. It's normal to feel nervous or even ashamed when talking about sex with your teen, especially if they're LGBTQ. But suppose you want them to know they can come to you for help and support. In that case, you mustn't let those feelings get in the way of having open conversations about these topics. Acknowledge how difficult this might be for both of you. Remember that being honest about how you feel is critical when building trust with your child. So, dig deep and identify your fears. What are you afraid of? Okay. Are you afraid your child's going to do something? What are you afraid your child might find out? What are you afraid will happen to your child as they maybe explore their sexuality? Then, know where your boundaries are. What do you not want your child to ask? What will you say if they ask you something that you just don't want to discuss? And where will you send your child to get help if you can't help them? See, discover these answers so that you're ready before the talk even starts. And third, it's okay to admit to your child that you're uncomfortable too. See, acknowledging your feelings and concerns is important so you can face your fears and prepare for this conversation. Get help from another adult if you need it, and prepare yourself for the uncomfortable parts of this conversation so that they don't take you by surprise and you're ready to take on the conversation head on. How to talk to your LGBTQ child about sex. Step 2. Be prepared and open to talking about sex. To have a good open conversation about sex, you need to be willing to talk about it. So, first, don't assume anything. Don't assume your child already knows anything at all or has already done things. So, for example, if your child has expressed that they are bisexual, don't assume that they've already had a relationship with boys and girls. Second, don't assume that your child will have the same experiences that you did growing up. Okay, that's important. Third, it is essential to talk about safe sex, STDs, and preventing unplanned pregnancy, just like you would with any heterosexual son or daughter. If you are not familiar with best practices for safe sex with a same sex partner, then do your research now so that you're ready to talk about it. And then lastly, yeah, teen pregnancy is still a risk, even if your child is gay or lesbian. Actually, LGBT teens have a bigger likelihood of teen pregnancy than teens in the general population. So be prepared to talk about birth control options and emergency contraception. How to talk to your LGBTQ plus child about sex, step 3. Focus on building open communication between you and your child. Initiate conversation, even if it's uncomfortable. When you initiate conversation, you also are telling your child that the topic is okay to discuss. It's okay if they don't want to talk to you about things right then and there. That's fine. They will probably need time to prepare themselves for this conversation too. So let your child know that it's okay to revisit the topic whenever they feel comfortable. Next, use gender neutral language whenever possible to not assume your child's preferences. And don't overreact. Don't get angry. Don't yell. Don't scold a child when they are being vulnerable. If a child is brave enough to ask questions to you, don't tease them. And lastly, if your child doesn't reapproach you to talk about sex, then initiate another talk at a later date. Sometimes it's just too difficult and embarrassing to start this conversation with parents. Some kids need you to take the initiative, even if they have things to say. They need their mom or dad to get the ball rolling. So revisit this conversation every few months. The most important thing to remember when talking to your LGBTQ teen about sex is that you should do it in a comfortable way for both of you. If they ask questions, answer them honestly and openly. But if they don't want to talk about it, let them know that there will always be time later when they're ready. How to talk to your LGBTQ plus child about sex, step 4. Now that you're ready to talk, you actually need to listen first. You may be prepared and even excited to talk to your teen, but don't jump the gun. You don't want this conversation to be a lecture. Instead, you want your child to lead the conversation. Yeah. You will initiate the talk, but once the conversation is started, it's time to ask questions and listen to their answers. So, first, start simple. Ask if the teen has had a romantic interest in anyone right now. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. And if they have ever kissed someone else before, and ask how the kids at their age level show affection. You are not expected to know everything about your child's life, right? So, still, parents must understand what their children are doing and what they're thinking about. So, start there. Then, ask your child what they are curious about. You can give them examples of topics if they are too shy to ask about specific things. For example, you can ask your child, "Are you curious about what blank feels like?" Okay. "Do you have questions about contraceptives? Is there anything that scares you about being in a relationship? What are you excited about trying?" The bottom line here is ask open ended questions that you can't answer yes or no to. This will allow your child to lead the conversation with your questions, and you'll get to learn a lot more about them. Then take cues. Take cues from your teen. Pay attention to their body language and their facial expressions. If your child seems more uncomfortable than what you would consider okay, then don't push them. You can try again later when they seem more relaxed and open to the conversation. And then talk to your child about physical safety. Online dating has become more and more popular among teens, especially with the LGBTQ community, because they may need to look outside of their social network for romance. So, meeting strangers online, it's popular, but it's also unsafe, and you will need to address this with your teenager. Talk out a safety plan for you and your teen and that you can agree on so that you can avoid high risk situations and allow your child to meet people and still explore. Then, if your child is trans or non binary, ask how they feel about sex and intimacy and any specific concerns they might have. Because trans and non binary people often feel uncomfortable in their own skin. And in turn, this can affect their sexuality. Don't be surprised if your child has romantic interests, but not sexual interests. These are two different things. Many want to love and have that intimacy, but without sexual intercourse or even sexual arousal. So get educated. If you don't know much about this, do that first. And then lastly, expect questions and be prepared to answer them. When your child asks a question about sex, it's easy to feel like you're drowning and you can't get air. You might wonder if they're asking because they want to try something new or maybe test the waters. And it's important to remember that this is their way of learning more about themselves and how they fit into the world around them. How to talk to LGBTQ plus children about sex. Step 5. Create boundaries and rules together. Don't treat your LGBTQ plus child any differently than a heterosexual child. Suppose your heterosexual child has rules about their boyfriend or girlfriend coming over and spending time in their room. Great. In that case, your LGBTQ plus child should also have similar boundaries. Discuss with your child your concerns and create rules together that your teen can understand and abide by. Consider having an open door policy. That's when the bedroom door must be left open whenever somebody else comes over. Maybe talk about dating. What are the rules and expectations of those? Start negotiating the expectations for prom or homecoming if your teen is old enough to go on those long date night opportunities. And then discuss specific rules for sleepovers. Will you allow overnight social opportunities? And how are those rules different? You see, creating rules together may not be your forte, but many parents would rather take the I said so stance. But by creating rules together, you're also increasing the chances that your child is going to comply. I hope that these tips will help you feel more comfortable and prepared to talk to your child about sex. Remember that this is a challenging topic for everyone, and there is no single way to approach it. What matters most is keeping the lines of communication open, listening carefully, and responding to questions thoughtfully. Create boundaries together and don't fake what you don't know. I promise you got this. I'm just here to help. If this information was valuable for you today, become a more impactful parent by downloading the Impactful Parent app. The Impactful Parent app is free and full of episodes just like this one to help you in your parenting journey. Because investing in your family looks like learning the warning signs of certain behaviors so that you can stop the bad things before they start, and discovering new parenting techniques to make your parenting more effective. All of this and so much more can be found inside the Impactful Parent app. So download it today because you have nothing to lose. It's absolutely free. So go to theimpactfulparent.com or your app store on your phone and discover how you can step up your parenting game and become a more impactful parent. But until next time, you got this. I'm just here to help.